Hey everyone, I'm Tassenix, and welcome to a Plotting and Scheming Extra. We've got the team here to review yet another kit. We just had the release here hours ago for Wrecker Mercenary. I am joined by Dagger, TJ, and Fatal. Sasha Aisha can't be with us today. Gentlemen, how's everybody doing?
Tired. It's going.
I'm gonna say one more response. Good.
Good.jpg. All right, well, let's dig right into it. A clone of might, a booming lamp, okay, Name, Wrecker, Mercenary. Alignment, light side. Categories, tank, Bad Batch, and Mercenary. Key attributes, tank for the new Bad Batch squad. Thick tank. Wrecker will dispel buffs from a single enemy using his basic ability, Haymaker. Wrecker provides turn meter manipulation throughout his kit. Don't really care about the inspiration. Strategy tips. Wrecker's Special 2. Improvised weapon should be used strategically in battle to prevent losing stacks of target practice by hitting multiple targets. Tenacity mods will make it harder to remove stacks of Soldier of Fortune from Wrecker. As his Soldier of Fortune stacks get higher, it gets harder and harder to remove them from him. Okay. I see there's an FAQ here about his Omicron. With his Omicron, when he revives an ally, do they go back into captive before they are defeated again? No, each Bad Batch character can only gain captive once. Good to know. Alright, let's see. How many uniques you rocking? Yeah, of course you'd have to with being a mercenary. So let's start at the bottom and work our way back. Unique 2, Soldier of Fortune. Final text. At the start of battle, Wrecker Mercenary gains 1 stack of Soldier of Fortune for each relic amplifier level he has. Whenever a Bad Batch or Mercenary ally is critically hit, Wrecker gains 3 stacks of Soldier of Fortune. Whenever Wrecker is inflicted with a debuff, he loses 5 stacks of Soldier of Fortune. At the start of their turn, each Mercenary ally gains 5% defense, stacking, and 1% tenacity, stacking, for each stack of Soldier of Fortune they have until the end of their next turn. Okay, that's a little more nuanced than most of these Soldier of Fortunes. Alright, unique 1. You gotta be in front to win, with a Zeta and an Omicron. Final text. Bad Batch allies gain 75% tenacity. Wow, that really must alleviate the burden on putting pure tenacity sets on them. I don't know. At the start of each encounter, Wrecker taunts for 2 turns. Whenever an enemy attacks out of turn, Bad Batch allies recover 5% health and protection. Whenever Bad Batch allies are inflicted with healing immunity, they dispel it, recover 25% health and protection, and gain defense up for 2 turns. Whenever an enemy gains 50% or more bonus turn meter before a Bad Batch ally takes a turn, all Bad Batch allies gain 15% turn meter. I have to digest that. Whenever an enemy gains 50% or more bonus turn meter. So this is not at one time. It's when they have accrued up to 50% more bonus turn meter before a Bad Batch ally takes a turn. So it's like you need to be at least 50% more bonus turn meter ahead of the next Bad Batch ally to go. Something like that. All Bad Batch allies gain 15% turn meter. When another Bad Batch ally is inflicted with captive, the cooldown of improvised weapon is reset, and Wrecker gains taunt for 2 turns, which can't be copied, dispelled, or prevented. While another Bad Batch ally is inflicted with captive, Wrecker has plus 25% max health and protection. I see it's a TB Omicron. How disappointing. Oh well. Alright, let's go up to his basic, Haymaker. Final text. Dispel all buffs on target enemy and deal physical damage to them twice. During Wrecker's turn, remove 5% turn meter for each buff dispelled from the target enemy. All other Bad Batch allies gain 10% turn meter. That's nice. And it is written such that these effects appear to only happen once, even though he's doing damage twice. Special 1. Colossal Smash. Cooldown of 3. Final text. Deal physical damage to target enemy and inflict disarm for 2 turns or until Wrecker Mercenary is defeated, and remove it from all other enemies which can't be copied, dispelled, or resisted. If the target enemy was already disarmed, this ability deals 50% more damage, excluding Galactic Legends. If Wrecker has more than 30 stacks of Soldier of Fortune, he and the weakest other Bad Batch ally gain 50% turn meter. Alright, so there's a 50% turn meter gain. I was wondering where that tied in. Also, taunt for 2 turns. All in that skill. Okay, here's the big booma. Special 2, Improvised Weapon. Zeta, cooldown of 6. Final text, deal physical damage and stagger all enemies for 2 turns. Dispel all debuffs on Bad Batch allies. Nice. So so this is like your relief to not having tech with this team or something like that. If defense down, speed down, or tenacity down were dispelled on a Bad Batch ally, they gain the opposite version of that debuff for 2 turns. Each time this ability is used, Wrecker gains 25% defense, max health, and max protection, stacking maximum of 100% until the end of battle. Okay, so this is going to be able to be reset on what condition?
Ally getting captive, I believe.
Spell it. Where did I see that? I'll bet. So there's your 50% turn meter tie-in.
Is in the first unique, halfway down.
The first unique?
Yeah.
Am I blind?
Just Control F for improvised weapon.
I mean, yes. Yeah, I am blind. It's right there in front of me. Yeah. Good. Yeah, when other Bad Batch allies inflicted with captive. So yeah, whenever any one of his allies are put in that desperate state, he's going to be able to pop, bulk up, stagger, cleanse everybody. Yeah. Wow. This is a lot. Okay, so Fatal, I was working actually right up to the bitter end of the workday, and I didn't get to tune in to your pop-up stream here, reviewing this yourself just before we started recording. But I know you've already had a first pass at it, and the rest of you guys, this is probably your first time looking at it too, same as me. So, what y'all think?
Think CG. So I have a major question leading into. Well, are we getting him in tomorrow? The cadence is already kind of disrupted.
Next week, buddy. Next week. It calls it out very top, 25th.
Yep.
Well, that's what he'll be available next week.
His marquee event. Yeah.
Yeah. Next week.
It begins.
I'm saying,
sorry, go ahead.
When he gets patched into the game, not when he's available.
You're saying so you can actually look at the stuff.
Yes.
I would assume that will be coming probably Wednesday, I think. It
might just be tomorrow. We went through a brief period where kits were Friday and patch was Monday, and it seems like we're kind of off of that again.
I see what you're saying now. Okay. Yeah, I would assume it's coming tomorrow, I believe, is the normal cadence now for when they do their updates.
So
it was Monday.
It was Monday for like January and last December or something, but now it's no longer, I guess. Anyway, the big question that I have here is there's a weird tension going on where CG gave him a bunch of taunts, but I feel like there are aspects of this kit that are actually kind of interested in not being the tank. The constant friction in Fugitive Omega Lead is who are the 4 people that you want to be in stealth and who's the 1 person you want to be out in the open. And that first unique is like, it's adding some pretty solid stuff for someone to be out in the open. But at the same time, yeah, we have, like an AoE stagger that might be something that's really beneficial if you could cheat out a bunch of extra turns and get that to come up more often. That might be a pretty good thing to do and have. And, the parts of his unique are not necessarily only for himself. That let's say you could opportunistically not upgrade certain parts of the kit so that he doesn't pre-taunt, because I assume, like, even if you didn't make him tankiest, if his taunt is just like a base part of the kit no matter what, then he's still I would imagine, like, when he gains taunt, he'll get ripped out of stealth, I'm assuming.
Right.
Well, the stealth is non-dispellable, so I don't know how that works.
Well, the pre-taunt is a dispellable. I think it's the auto-taunt on captive is not
no,
dispellable.
The stealth. Right?
It's locked, but like, I know in the past that, like, yeah, there's some real weirdness about, like...
If I'm not mistaken, though, when somebody goes taunts, the normal practice of the system is that even if you're in stealth, you're pulled out.
But that's the thing.
Yeah,
you're dealing with a non-locked taunt and a locked stealth. So which supersedes the other?
Yeah. That's
a major question going into tomorrow. And so one thing I'm going to be looking at the moment he unlocks is, like, what is positioned where in the unique? Would it be possible to, like, get the good shit but then skip the taunt?
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Does the taunt end up being like a level 5 upgrade that all of a sudden you're like, it costs me, the anti-assist shit? Because that's obviously pretty good too.
Now I'm thinking of what you were talking about now, Fatal.
He honestly doesn't feel that much like a tank.
I think I will say, Fatal, when we talked about it, and it's like they are giving him disarm, so that's kind of helping with if he's thick or if he's not, if he's all wrecker status or not. The disarm kind of helps with that.
But if he's the man who is standing out of stealth, there's no promise that you get to take those turns. Right? Like, Kersantin has disarm, but Kersantin starts with speed up, for example.
Well, it's cool that they did it, right? And I don't think I've ever seen it, like, the only one that sticks to my mind of reversing debuffs to buffs is GK. Yeah. Right? He'll flip your debuffs, turn them into buffs, so that specifically the speed down becomes your speed up. But you're also correct that you're right. Slow ass tank gets the speed up to help get him to that point to be able to do the disarm. It feels like it's the shenanigans of calling him a thick tank. He may not be stat wise, but the disarm is supposed to help with that.
Well, we don't know his stats. His stats might be incredibly good for all we know. All we know is he does have the tank class, so he will get the extra R9.
Let's say
they did do that.
Oh, go ahead.
So they did do Relic Amplifier again.
Yeah, he also has, like, his Soldier of Fortune unique also incentivizes R9.
Honestly, that shit is kind of whatever to me. But I think the other big question right now is obviously it's offense versus defense, and, like, I don't think we're gonna know where that conversation even stands until we see Crosshair. But
yeah,
with the Soldier of Fortune shit, you gain for crits, you lose for debuffs, and obviously he's got a lot of tenacity flying around.
Right.
But if it's that big of a concern that you're trying to post this team on defense, all of a sudden it's like, okay, well, this team just has, like, tenacity down and or unresistible shit, and all of a sudden that's not really an angle.
Well, the reason I mentioned that is because the very last line of his Soldier of Fortune unique, at the start of each turn, each mercenary ally gains 5% defense stacking and 1% tenacity stacking for each stack of Soldier of Fortune they have. That's the only reason I brought up the R9, like, being a tank tag and also having that line of text, because there's not a whole lot else in this kit that actually bulks him.
He's doing the Relic Amplifier shit, though.
It is.
Don't forget that.
I mean, sure. I was going to say, I mean, to Fatal's point that we don't know exactly how this will tie all together without Crosshair's kit, fine. But, like, when you think about when we're modding characters for what they can't give themselves, let's say he's only of average speed, but to Fatal's point, it would be highly advantageous for him to go out early in the fight. What if it ended up needing to be something like speed set with good tenacity secondaries, but a potency cross? Because you'll notice that stagger is not, there's nothing saying that can't be resisted or anything like that. So that stagger.
We'll have to do his base tenacity is because he gives them all 75%.
Right.
And newer characters tend to have higher tenacity than older characters. Mm-hmm. So
Aegis Omega just has like 200 out. It's 198, but basically 200 out of box, by the way.
Yeah, so maybe we don't even end up worrying about tenacity. But I think, what do you guys think about the importance of a potency cross at the very least, if not a small set?
I don't know how important it is. I don't know how important the debuffs are to land.
What I'll say here. I right now my thoughts on Bad Batch for the current information that we have is that it's probably going to end up being. I'm just going to assume that the taunt isn't skippable, and then I would say at the point it's like, okay, this is probably going to be like a toolkit approach, because Wrecker, OG Wrecker has a unique that just says raw plus 80% health and protection out of box, boom, done. And he also has Echo unique, which is providing a lot of regen on top for like just an insanely generous, like Marin protection regen levels of you are healing on accidents levels of regeneration. New Record doesn't have that. He just has that unique that is giving him some extra sustainability from other sources. So like, again, can't really talk about offense versus defense, but just looking at matchups, you can say like, okay, well, there's a Mon Mothma on defense, or I expect a Mon Mothma to be used here. Every time they mass assist, I'm going to heal for 25% each. That's pretty fucking good. Or okay, this team is, I don't know, doing heal immunity on basic, and we're just throwing that off and then immediately gaining 25% health and protection and defense up type shit. That's where I think New Wrecker kind of sets himself apart. The only awkward thing past that point is Old Wrecker has the advantage of being a clone trooper, which I believe has benefits for Old Echo. Because the way I'm looking at this team right now is Old Echo is like looking at Batcher like, what exactly would you say your job is here? And I'm fully prepared for the possibility that Crosshair will make it all make sense. But at the moment, if I'm looking at per slot efficiency, I'm running Echo, and if I'm running Echo, OG Wrecker is very happy to be a clone trooper and get all of that regen clause. So it's complicated. There's a lot of weird moving parts right now. I have been exploring some shit with new Bad Batch, so that's kind of why I have so many thoughts right now in this last week. So yeah, I don't know. It's still kind of up in the air, but.
I got you. Yeah, it's obviously, folks watching this understand that, we're just giving our thoughts, just reading a pure reading of this kit. We know we don't have the full context, but I feel like if we need the speed, then maybe a speed set, if not some generic type of tank set, but potency cross and then just bulk out with, protection primaries, because all the bulking is max health and max protection, so I guess I'll skew protection. Just kind of a first thought.
The thing I'll say is that if we assume that he's going to be the guy out of stealth, he's probably not going to be taking turns. That, like, I'm not going to talk about potency or anything until we know what his base is. But yeah, just kind of from how the base Bad Batch flows, you could give him your best speed set, and you're still not really going to get to play the video game because you're going to eat what. Right, teams are aggressive enough now that if you're the man out of stealth, you're kind of just the fall guy that thank you for your service to sacrifice. That's why all of his survivability is on his unique, right? Because there's kind of an implicit understanding that he's not going to get to play the video game much, if at all.
Well, it seems like the way the team is built too, though, right? Just looking at it, we have obviously a fast hunter or faster hunter or whatever it is, but it seems like the mechanic is built for the stealth so that and was it Dagger who said or something like that? Dagger, I think, was the one who called that. You basically, the way it looks initially, you don't want them going first anyway. It's a reactive setup, and the team's just going to react to what you're doing. So generally, I wouldn't know. I would think Old Wrecker, in my opinion, was pretty fast, but also you had Hunter turning passing turn meter and things like that to shift it. So
there
it's like,
is no. I mean, who do we think's first in this team as of the moment? And also, do any of the kits for this new team have a turn meter swap? Like, is there something where we don't actually need to worry about how fast he is because we can just, pop over the turn meter?
I would say there's the benefit reset or whatever you're doing, the manipulation there, but nothing that's doing
nobody that can force feed him a quick turn.
Not the hunter. Here, take all of this turn meter. Now you get to go. There's shenanigans in his kit specifically right now that's doing things. Yeah, but you're right. There's nothing that's passing it around like that.
Okay.
But don't know how much you're going to want that anyway, where they're reactively doing it. And the one thing that this kid is doing with others or not is it's penalizing you, at least from what we'll see, right? And I know we need to get the character in the game, but there is penalty there for people gaining mass amounts of turn meter, right? That they're shifting the team around that, oh, you want to gain turn meter? Well, I'm going to gain turn meter too. And we're going to start playing the game that way. So,
I mean, having reactivity is good. Yeah, this, I think there's a lot of, I don't know. Wrecker's kit is like, you don't want to go first. And then Hunter and Batch are like, but you want to go first. Or early, rather.
it's funny because it does feel like that's sort of what it is. That's funny. That
Yeah,
does
so
like a contention with one another.
yeah, I'm not this team I'm with Fatal where like it's hard to have like a strong opinion about some of this stuff before we have the whole team because there is so much push pull between its own mechanics. This record doesn't feel like a tank in the sense that he is the front facing tank that old wreckers like, hi, I'm here, have fun trying to kill me, right? This wrecker feels, while he has some aspects of being a tank, he doesn't really, we'll have to see his stats, but he doesn't feel tanky. Like reading his kit, it doesn't feel like, oh my god, he's gonna be unkillable. Like old wrecker lives through multiple Ray whirlwinds. You know what I mean? Like this guy doesn't feel like he's gonna just be that monster that your opponents can't get through. To what Fatal said, he feels like he's gonna be a piece to the puzzle who might be slightly harder to kill than the others.
If it means anything for like adding some extra context here, so like one of the premier matchups I've been working in the last couple of weeks has been Bad Batch against Great Mothers. And if I'm looking at new record versus old record in that matchup, is like, let's say there was a season 4 of this season and I magically had Wrecker. What am I looking at here? The clauses that they added, such as the bonus turn, Bad Batch allies gain 50% turn meter, would equal Bad Batch allies get a 50% TM preload. The way that matchup works right now, I have an R9 Wrecker, and I fought against some like R9 topped out like 115% crew damage Datacrons. My R9 Wrecker was fighting for his goddamn life. It's some of the most violent shit you've seen in terms of like he would lose like 90% of his health bar. But old R9 Wrecker is just a slab of meat. This new Wrecker, I guess, would be more trying to get a bit ahead of that, where instead of having to eat a Marin Mass Assist or a first turn Spirit Special, I guess he's trying to get the team a little bit more proactive, get them like a 30% preload and try to like Echo Dispel out or some shit. So he wouldn't be able to, he would just insta-die in the situation of OG Wrecker. But at the same time, he actually might not, because he might just stop that scenario from happening, kind of. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay, fair enough. I'm just looking at a self-contained kit and trying to remember for the life of me what the other tunes do.
Bad Batch and Hunter aren't worth knowing at the moment because they just don't fucking do anything. When I'm running Bad Batch right now, I'm using Echo, I'm using Tech, and I'm using Original Hunter.
I do laugh at that you watch, and specifically Fatal's call is like, okay, we reset. All right, now let's figure out the next fight. And it literally is the other team going around Fugitive Omega. She's giving this, all right, pass it back. Okay, now here's the next step. So it's like, it is a good call out. And I bet I have to assume the next kit will do, when the whole team is Fugitive, blah, 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 lead, etc., then all of these magical things are going to happen. And it's going to make all of the sense, a la what it was when Bad Batch Echo came out, and then finally tied the entire team together. Now this is now amazing.
If I can make things extremely fucking weird, as if it wasn't already, when looking at this kit, here's the thing. So, Fugitive Omega is very, very concerned with who you hit when and what order. And Fugitive Wrecker is if we're only looking at the new squad, he is the first AoE. And it's an AoE stagger, so again, you think is like kind of like a speed opener. Like he does an AoE stagger and then you try to do shit. If he's the tank, that shit is just never happening. He might get to that shit eventually. If the squad could just like guide him to get there. And then we look at it, like Fugitive Omega, her specials literally don't hit anybody. It's just her basic. And then Hunter, it's only single target. Batcher, it's only single target. Technically, if you have like Amp Bag, then you could do AoE damage with Batcher, but like, fucking whatever. What are we talking about here? So we end up in this really fucking weird spot where it's like, okay, if you're trying to not lose target practice, this is the first AoE you have. So is this button kind of just like press this to lose all your target practice? Because you know where this would slot in neatly is if you can just have this man in stealth, and if you have Fugitive Omega lead, and if you have Echo, and you have Tech in your squad, you know what would be pretty fucking neat? Is if you go Echo AoE into Wrecker AoE into Tech AoE, and that's just an AoE daze, AoE stagger, AoE stun, fucking push the reset button. And that all of a sudden gives you plus 10 target practice. And that can actually click into place, and you can look at the current Bad Batch and be like, okay, I see how this makes sense.
Well, now could Crosshair be that guy though? Could he be the super fast starter? Because you just called it out perfectly, right? You want to use the Bad Batch Echo because you could literally sequentially hit things up to where that team is done. And what if Crosshair is your Han? What if Crosshair is your at the start of the fight? Crosshair gets to take a bonus turn or something else that creates the initial setup to where it's like, okay, here's how that turn order is going to be. Crosshair is going to go into Wrecker, and then we're going to pass it back and forth. Not saying we're going to get to the loop, right? Because nobody wants the loop.
The loop is
obviously,
coming, no matter what. Like,
but that's what I'm saying, right? So your point is like Bad Batch Echo is the mass thing. So what if Crosshair is the singular setup where it's like he takes the bonus turn, and then that person's like stopped. So then the team does get to go in front and continue to, because the only reason it makes sense is to what you're saying is you have all of these pieces. So you need the tie-in factor. You're calling out Bad Batch Echo, where it's like, well, I can't give you an AoE team. That's too strong, which is why Bad Batch Echo can't go there because they want something to set it up. So Crosshair is we can't give you an entire team, but we're going to give you one. So Crosshair is going to get to start the fight and push it out in front to stop the shenanigans, and then you're going to control the rest.
Yeah, sorry.
You go. I've been talking about you go.
Yeah, I would say one of the things too is we've all been trying to speculate on what Wrecker will do, and it's like my assumption of him was that he was going to be like a high damage character with like an AoE grenade and then like a big hit on like a sniper shot. But then Hunter rolls in and has a nuke. And then Wrecker rolls in and has an AoE stagger, and I'm like, what the fuck is Crosshair gonna do? Like, this team, it feels like it's missing a lot. Like, maybe
if I call the ball, I think Crosshair's whole thing. I mean, who of y'all have seen Bad Batch or care about Bad Batch?
Oh, absolutely, dude.
I mean, I've seen it. Care is a strong word.
Well, yeah, I'm saying, has anyone not seen it but care about what happens?
No. Oh, yeah, no. Nobody. You know what? Even if somebody said yes, I would override it and say spoil it for them because at this point they deserve it.
Yeah.
Fatal. So just do it.
Yeah, you need to have watched it. Yes.
So I think there's two things happening here. A, we know that Crosshair is probably going to have an AoE, and then we kind of have Crosshair before and after. I imagine that we're probably going to see a move that's like a Ricochet as a callback to how he was in Season 1, pulling off crazy trick shots.
Didn't he also do a crazy trick shot late in this last thing? Because I was thinking exactly the same thing. Like, there's definitely some type of crazy bullet thing.
If we're going there, though, to what you're saying, it would, if it's fugitive, whatever we're calling it like that, I think the key is going to be he's double strong when Fugitive Omega's in the lead. But he can work wherever else if it's just like Bad Batch. We already have a Crosshair in the game. So they already have some kind of designation that they may change the mechanic for what he's trying to do, but he's already there. You fight him in TB every other week. So it's the Ricochet, I don't know, but I feel like everybody's talking about it, and I feel like everything's set up for they just see something to get out in front. And so they need their Bad Batch Echo, and we don't have that yet, which is why it feels so disconnected from what the team's going to try to do.
My guess or expectation for him is I think he's going to be a character like a Marin. Because in Season 3, he is, deeply unwell,
right,
physically and kind of mentally. I think we might even see him be something like Marin, where he's like speedless, almost.
Is that what you would think?
Yes.
That's tough.
This man is like not physically well, and he's not like the definition of fast. And I think he's going to be like a slow build up.
Yeah, the Twitch.
I'm with Fatal in the sense that he's going to be is almost assuredly going to be turn meter oriented with a low base speed. Like for whenever they hit target practice, he gains turn meter. I don't know if he'll be quite set at 0, but like that would be interesting. I really liked Marin's design with that. But I do agree he's going to be very much a turn meter character. He's not he doesn't feel like a particularly fast character. Maybe he has the bonus turn at the start of the fight, like you said. But outside of that, like that would come from like the sniper ability, not the oh my god, he's fast ability.
Well, it's to say because if he has the Twitch, right? So if we're going into full spoiler and he goes through the Twitch, right? So if he's got the twitchy hand and everything else from the show, then I could see that being the case. He gets to start the fight, and then he's like Bane speed because Bane is ultimately not that fast. So it could be the mechanic of like you're saying, like I was saying, he gets to start the fight first, and then now he's settled right into like third on the team for speed or whatever it's going to be.
But also,
yeah, I was thinking more like 100 speed, 80 speed. I was thinking like along the lines of Fatal, where he's like dirt effing slow.
One of the big things in the show was Omega kind of being the only adult in the room, more or less, to these like hyper-accelerated children.
Yeah, that's fair.
I think if you're CG looking at thematic flavor and designing the squad, and Omega has this cooldown reset, I think you're probably looking at. I mean, it's the coldest take in the room, right? Like, oh, he's gonna have an annihilate, and then you cooldown reset the annihilate, and blah blah blah. But I do think that's where we're headed. Of like, her lead provides the bonus turns, she provides the cooldown reset. She will help him set up like the big shot type shit. I feel like
that's fair.
Yeah. Either that or you're just targeting Hunter to cool down his spear.
Yeah, I think it'll probably be something like a Spy or Boba type nuke where it stacks with like buffs and debuffs, and then it'll probably get damage bonuses against Mark shit. Is my guess.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I was more referring to like how unsatisfying Hunter feels when you reset his cooldown.
Oh, dude, I just got him to 7-star yesterday and tried him in a conquest. And I was like, all right, I got the spear, and I gave him like crit damage modding because I know it can crit. I was like, let's see what this fucker does, and it didn't crit, and it did like 1,000 damage.
Yeah, it's just an unsatisfying button to press. It really is.
It sits in a weird, interesting spot that I am not writing it off for. Where, so, not to sell the second podcast too much yet, but one thing that I am going to be exploring next season if this bug gets fixed is Bad Batch against SLK. And I have major questions because it says damage equal to or based on health. If that can work against percent health resistant people, kind of the way that like Malgus Nuke can, then there's a world where all of a sudden Hunter Nuke makes sense as like, oh, this is the button that you use as the GL killer once everyone else is dead. And all of a sudden,
does Seer work that way?
Seer is normal percent health damage, I believe. I'm comparing to like Malgus Nuke type shit.
Oh, well, I'm thinking of like Seer because that's kind of how it's worded, is roughly the same.
Mm-hmm.
Because like Seer's big hit is worded deal physical damage to target enemy plus bonus damage equal to 10% of the target's max health, max 200%. And that's kind of how Hunter's is worded, right?
I am not too familiar with it for Seer, but we're kind of, like there's weird shit where like okay, people like Malgus have the exception. But then people like Cal Crossguard do not.
Yeah. Yeah, he says deal physical damage to target enemy equal to 100% of their max health, decreased or increased to 200% if they are marked. So it has the same wording or the same verbiage as the Seer. And I'm not saying it's going to work the same way, but my assumption is that it's going to work similarly to where Seer does work versus crew.
Seer does say bonus damage equal to health, where I think Hunter specifically says physical and Malgus says true. I have no idea if that's like what's happening here, or yeah, I just don't even know if it works against percent health resistance stuff yet either. So I just need to like try to find that out at some point. But
well, guys, we've given a pretty good breakdown here on this kit, and yeah, a lot of prognostication about what this might do once we have the full kit. I really think there's a lot of that's a running theme with this team, right? There's a lot of control here. There's actually I like the variety built into this kit. It is definitely not as substantial as a tank as the original Wrecker. I Absolutely agree to that, though. But guys, thank you for joining me in recording this here, and thank you to everybody watching. If you've enjoyed this video, give it a like, hit subscribe on the channel to see more, and until next time, it's been real, it's been awesome, it's been real awesome. Take care.